This is the Breaking Up with Binge Eating podcast, where every listen moves you one step closer to complete food freedom. Hosted by me, Georgie Fear, and my team at Confident Eaters. My client Tamara was getting ready for her daughter's birthday party, doing the ordinary pre-party shuffle of picking up food, thinking through guests, and making sure there would be enough snacks and enough things people can grab without needing a fork. Somewhere in that process, she bought a bag of Sun Chips. They were just easy party food. You pour them in a bowl, they do their crunchy little job, everybody likes them. Except Tamara realized Sun Chips are one of those foods. You probably know what I mean. Most people have at least a few foods that do not feel casual in quite the same way other foods feel casual. There are foods where I'll just have a handful sounds reasonable in theory, but your actual life experience is standing behind you, raising an eyebrow. Tamara really likes Sun Chips, but she usually does not keep them around because they are so easy to start and so hard to stop. So as she was getting things ready for the party 2 or 3 days in advance, the thought popped up, oh, I'll just open the bag and have a handful. That's a completely normal thought. Not shocking, not catastrophic, just the kind of thought people have around food they enjoy. Oh, a handful of that would be nice. But then she had gotten halfway through the bag, and she realized, actually, this food isn't working that way for me. And I love that moment because Tamara did not decide she was hopeless, here goes the binge. She didn't treat the chips as proof that her recovery had somehow flopped and gone belly up. She also did not set up a moral obstacle course where the only acceptable outcome was proving she could eat exactly one handful of chips and then forget the bag existed, which, depending on the chip and the day and the human, might be a fairly ridiculous standard. Instead, Tamara used a guardrail. She put the rest in her kitchen safe and set it for 24 hours. This is essentially a locked box with a timer, and it ensured that she would not be getting into the rest of the Sun Chips later that day. The win wasn't that she avoided chips forever. That's not the point of this story. The win was that she respected her own pattern instead of pretending that she was someone else. That is what I want to talk about today. Guardrails. Because a lot of shame can show up here. People think, I should be able to handle this. Or, normal people can keep chips in the house, why can't I? Sometimes the thought has an embarrassed edge to it. This is childish. I don't want my family to think I'm weird. I don't want to be high maintenance. And underneath all of that is one painful assumption, that needing support means something is wrong with me. So let's clear that one up right away. Needing support around certain foods, particular environments, or times of day doesn't make you weak or immature or failing at recovery. It means you're paying attention to your real patterns and creating conditions that help you succeed. Recovery is not proving you can handle every food in every environment with no support. Recovery is learning what support actually helps you live the way you want to live. One way to think about this is that many of us have two versions of ourselves around tricky foods. There's the naive self, and there's the experienced self. The naive self says, I'll just have a handful, or, oh, I'll just open this and have a few crackers before dinner to take the edge off. The experienced self says, sweetheart, we have data. And I say that with so much affection for the naive self. The naive self is optimistic. It believes in fresh starts, casual snacking, and the possibility that this time everything will go smoothly. It wants good intentions to be enough. The experienced self has simply been there before. It remembers that an open family-size bag in the pantry at 9 p.m. is not the same as eating a portion of chips at lunch with a sandwich. It knows that browsing a snack table after 4 hours of social stress and not quite enough dinner might not be a neutral little stroll. It has noticed that visible food can create a low-level negotiation that slowly wears you down. That's not cynicism, it's just self-knowledge. A guardrail is what happens when your experienced self is allowed to help. By guardrail, Any practical support that makes the behavior you want to do easier and the behavior you do not want to do harder. That could be buying single servings of particular foods instead of large bags. It might be using a kitchen safe, keeping certain foods out of sight, or asking someone in your household to store a snack somewhere else. It might look like putting takeout dinner onto plates instead of eating directly from the larger containers, or eating dessert intentionally at the table instead of grabbing bites standing in the kitchen. There are 1,000 possible guardrails. The exact one you choose matters less than the spirit behind it. And we understand this in almost every other area of life. People keep their phone out of the bedroom because they know they sleep better without it nearby. I don't bring my phone into the gym with me because I know it's so easy for me to get distracted by it between sets, and then I'll take twice as long to finish my workout. People use calendars, they set spending limits. We put medications into pill organizers. We use automatic bill payments, we make grocery lists, and nobody says, "Wow, you use a calendar? I guess you're not truly healed from forgetfulness." Nobody looks at automatic bill payments and says, "Wow, clearly you still have trouble with money." We accept that support is part of being human. We design our environments because humans are distractible, tired, habit driven creatures who do better when the desired behavior is easier. Food is not an exemption from that. A good guardrail doesn't feel like punishment, it actually feels like comfort. It's a design choice. I want to be careful here because it's important that guardrails don't turn into a nicer sounding version of rules. A guardrail doesn't have to mean, "I can never eat this food." More likely, it means, "This food works better for me with certain conditions." Sun chips may work better portioned out than one open bag style. You might decide that you buy Halloween candy on October 31st, not 10 days early, where you may or may not be eating it in the whole run up to the trick or treaters. Party food might be genuinely enjoyable while you're throwing a party, but weirdly stressful if it's sitting in your pantry for 3 days beforehand. Alcohol might be fine in some situations, but cause problems in others, especially if it changes your food choices or lowers your ability to notice fullness, fatigue, or emotion. We're not trying to create a life with no fun foods or flexibility or spontaneity. We're trying to create a life where food can be enjoyable without repeatedly becoming a source of suffering. Sometimes that means being honest about the conditions under which a food is actually enjoyable. I love using personal examples, and I tend to have many given my long checkered history with food. I have discovered a bakery in town that has wonderful scones. My clients are rolling their eyes now because they know how many times I have mentioned these scones. Well, when we first started going, my husband and I would each order one scone, eat one scone, and depart with smiles on our face. And at some point, we realized that they sell boxes of 6 for slightly less price per scone. This, of course, led to us going, buying a package of 6, and the whole 6 were gone by the end of that day. So, my personal policy is we only purchase one scone at a time. It just helps things go well. Think of a guardrail on a winding mountain road. It's not there because the mountain is bad or because the driver is incompetent. It's there because humans are humans. Roads are roads, weather changes, and nobody benefits from pretending that there's no edge. Food guardrails work the same way. They're a way of saying, "I know this particular setup has potential to go sideways, so I'm going to stop pretending it doesn't." That can be hard to admit, especially when you're carrying shame. Many people would rather white knuckle their way through a difficult food environment than acknowledge they could use a hand. They look at someone else's pantry and they think, "Oh, why can't I be like that?" Their husband keeps cookies for weeks. Their friend forgets there are chips in the cupboard. Their kid took 2 bites of carrot cake and wandered off, which is deeply confounding to anyone who appreciates a good carrot cake. But the goal of recovery is not to copy someone else's nervous system. The goal is to build a life that works for yours. And your nervous system has reasons for being the way it is. Your food history, restriction history, stress level, household, and learned associations all shape how the food environment feels. Two people can stand in the same kitchen and have completely different internal experiences. One person sees a bag of tortilla chips and thinks, oh, chips. Another person sees the same bag, and their brain opens a negotiation channel that will now remain active until the bag or the human is removed from the scene. There's a fantasy that being really recovered means nothing ever pulls at you. No urges, no tricky foods, no situations that require thought. You simply float through the grocery store in a linen outfit. You radiate emotional regulation, and all foods have become equally neutral. It's a lovely image, not always real life. For most humans, recovery is not the complete absence of vulnerability, it's a changed relationship with vulnerability. You notice, hey, this is a harder setup for me, without collapsing into shame. You say, I need more support here, just like you might say, I need more SPF, without turning that into a character judgment. You take action earlier and you prevent the urge from becoming enormous. Another part of Tamara's story that really stayed with me was a conversation she initiated with her mom. In her parents' house, the laundry room is where the goodies are kept: candy, snack foods, the whole treasure trove. And it's also been the scene of multiple regrettable food incidents for Tamara. Staying out of that room was something we tried, but it hadn't worked well, especially now that her daughter knew exactly where everything was and was laser focused on getting in there every single visit. So Tamara told her mom, once I start with certain snacks, it's hard to stay out of them. And her mom surprised her because she said once the current snacks were gone, she would stop buying them. This wasn't surprising because her mom was mean or unsupportive, or she anticipated her mom saying, no, I insist on buying Teddy Grahams. It was just a surprise because it went so easily and so smoothly. That kind of conversation can feel really loaded. Asking for help around food may bring up all kinds of worries. What if they think I'm controlling? What if they get annoyed? What if they say I should just use willpower? What if they keep buying the snacks anyway? And sometimes people do respond poorly. I'm not going to pretend every household conversation becomes a glowing moment of shared understanding. Some people are defensive. Some hear any request as criticism. Some have their own complicated relationship with control, eating, and comfort. Still, people can surprise you, especially when the request is concrete and not framed as blame. There's a big difference between, you always bring junk in the house and you're sabotaging me, and I'm working on making eating feel easier and less stressful. And when these snacks are in the house, I have a much harder time. Would you be willing to help by not buying them for a while, or just keep them somewhere for yourself where I don't see them? The second version gives the person something specific to do. It also helps them understand the impact. And when somebody does help, tell them that it mattered. I encouraged Tamara to pour on the positive reinforcement for her mom after she did allow the sugary and fried snacks in the house to dwindle. She said, I really appreciated you not buying those snacks this week. She might also have said, thank you for helping me with this. I know it seems small, but it makes a real difference. You might say, I felt more relaxed just not having that stuff around. Thank you. People are more likely to keep supporting a change when they know the change is working. There's also something emotionally important about asking. Many people with binge eating are used to handling everything privately. They hide the struggle. They make rules in secret. They break those rules in secret. They feel ashamed in secret and then try to recover in secret too. Asking for help interrupts that lonely loop. It brings the problem out of the shadows and turns it into something practical. Not everyone needs to understand every layer of your recovery. So don't worry if you're breaking into a cold sweat now, you don't need to disclose all your innermost struggles. Sometimes support can be super simple. Could we not keep this in the house right now? Or could you put that somewhere I don't see it? Or could we plan dinner before we're both starving? These may not sound profound, but in real life, even small changes like that could lower the temperature around food. This is where diet mentality might try to sneak in. It loves to hijack a good tool. A kind choice like, I don't keep chips in the house most of the time, can turn rigid if it becomes, I can never be around chips. I am not allowed to purchase chips. Now, the guardrail is no longer supporting your life, it's shrinking your life. After you use a guardrail, you can ask yourself, do I feel calmer and more capable, or do I feel smaller and more afraid? That question can tell you a lot. Now, let's talk about the big fear. But shouldn't I be able to eat everything normally? That thought sounds reasonable at first. It sounds like freedom, but normally is really slippery. Normal eating isn't one universal food environment. Some people keep ice cream at home and forget about it, and it just gets freezer burned. Some people keep ice cream at home and eat a little every night. Some people only go out for ice cream because they don't want to have it at home. Some people don't even like ice cream. Some people avoid keeping candy on the counter because they'll eat it mindlessly, but put it in a drawer, out of sight, out of mind. Other people don't want to keep candy at home at all. And still, other people eat candy 3 times a day and don't mind one bit. All of that can be normal. Normal eating includes preferences, routines, convenience, and self knowledge. It does not require you to imitate the pantry of someone who doesn't have your brain, your history, your household, or your particular food associations. It also doesn't mean you're doomed to struggle with the same foods forever. Remember that something that's difficult for you today might become easier with steady nourishment, permission, less shame, and lots of practice. If you have spent years treating certain foods as forbidden, exposure and permission may be important parts of healing. So if you want to choose a guardrail, keep the process simple. Start with a pattern. What food, time, place, or setup repeatedly makes eating harder? Not once, not because of one weird day, but repeatedly. Once you name the setup, think of one small change that would make the desired behavior easier or more automatic. Could you buy a smaller size so you just don't have to deal with the leftovers? Would that be worth spending 50 cents more per portion? Maybe moving a food out of sight would help, or portioning it into a bowl instead of eating out of the package. Might you ask someone to store something in a different place in your house? Then comes the most important part. I want you to frame the change in a way that feels supportive instead of punitive. I'm helping future me. I'm allowed to enjoy this food in a way that actually feels good. I'm asking for a hand because I matter. This is not forever. This is what helps right now. Any of those thoughts are right along the vein of what we're going for. After you try this guardrail out, observe. Did it help? If it did, wonderful. Keep it. If it felt punitive, adjust it. If it was too rigid, soften it. If it was too loose, strengthen it. If it worked in one context but not another, get more specific. This is not a pass fail test, it's a design process. If you create a guardrail and you still overeat, please do not turn that into another reason to attack yourself. The goal is learning. This week, I want you to try one. One food, place, time, or setup, and create one small support that makes things even 10% easier. Tamara did not need to become a different person to handle the sun chips. She did not need to make them forbidden. She did not need to prove she could be casual with an open bag of sun chips. She just let her experienced self help. Her experienced self stepped in and said, hey, we can not let this half bag turn into the whole bag. She used her kitchen safe and moved on. Other clients of mine have had similar victories when they decided to order a medium pizza instead of the large. Another client firmly decided that alcohol and her business trips just do not go together. A lot of my clients have adopted personal policies to only eat dessert with meals, not on their own in the middle of the afternoon. For me, if I have baked goods in the house like cookies or brownies or the aforementioned scones, any leftovers go in the freezer. That's the heart of a good guardrail. It's supportive and just lets you move on with your day. And if you want help figuring out which guardrails are supportive and which ones might be tipping into restriction, that's exactly the kind of thing we work on in coaching. The answer is not always obvious from the outside. It depends on the person, the pattern, the context, and whether the support makes your life bigger and calmer or smaller and more fearful. You can learn more about working with me at confidenteaters.com. And if you'd like to support the show and listen to behind the scenes sessions with my real clients, you can join the paid version for about $5 a month. Regardless of which urge types you are discovering affect you, setting up guardrails can help prevent and curtail binges. And if a guardrail helps you take better care of yourself and feel more comfortable with your eating, I'd say it's worth it.